Okay. Hello back, everyone. Sorry for some technical problem that forced me to close the first audio. Let me refer back again to the last type of strategies that we are talking about, which is the defensive strategies. The first type of defensive strategies is called retrenchment. Retrenchment means or occurs when an organization tries to regroup, tries to make some kind of cost reduction, asset reduction as a response to the declining sales and profits. So they want to reverse that declining sales and profit through selling their part of their assets, like for example, selling some buildings because they want to have more cash needed to do some other activities that will help them increase their profit. Or they might try to reduce the cost, maybe through examples of automations that will help you reduce the number of employees needed. Maybe you need to reduce the cost by closing some marginal businesses, some part of your businesses that you see that do not bring you enough profit, or the costs a lot compared to the profits that you can get out of this business. So you decided to close that marginal business. That's why it's called a turnaround strategy or a reorganizational strategy. So you're trying to reorganize yourself through your cost reduction, so selling some of assets in order to keep your competence in the markets. So during the retrenchment, actually strategies have limited resources and they have a lot of pressure from the shareholders and as well as from the media. Why is that? Because you already have a declining sales and you're already losing and does not have enough profit. And of course, shareholders want some more profits, right? So if you decide to reduce the number of employees, that might cause problem. However, you have to explain it well to the media. You have to face the pressure from the shareholders and to explain to them why you are taking such harsh or such decisions by closing some stores or by closing some businesses that you don't need, or by selling some of your assets to get more cash, and so on. When an organization should go for an retrenchment strategy? First, when the organization already have a competence but failed to meet its goals in a consistent way. You have something good, so you don't have to close by all means. You still have a competence, you still have something special about your organizations, but you did not meet your goals in a consistent way, did not achieve the profits needed, you did not achieve the sales that was expected. So you have something good, but you still didn't achieve everything that you wanted. So in that case, maybe your retrenchment would be a good strategy for you. When an organization is one of the weaker competitors in a given industry. So you are actually a weak competitor. You remember most of the other strategies we have been talking, you already have a good competitive edge in the market, you have better things than your competitors, and so on. That's why you can integrate, that's why you can diversify, or so on. But here, we are trying to defend ourselves, to be able to continue in the market. So this means we are already weak competitors. We are not a strong competitors in the industry, okay? When an organization shows some kind of efficiency, low profitability, and poor employee morale, when you find that you are not efficient, and you find that you are gaining low profit, and the employee is having a very poor morale, then retrenchment might be a good strategy for you. And when the organization fails to capitalize on external opportunity and maximize and minimize an internal threat. So here, this means that you are, or your strategic managers have already failed. You remember when we have talked about analysis of the internal environment and the external environment so that you can capture the external opportunities or threats, or avoid the threats, the external threats. if there was an opportunity in the market that was there, that for example, customers want that new product or new technology was developed and you weren't able to capture, then you have made something wrong. Or there was a threat, but you didn't notice, so you did not, that threat was very high and it impacted you, did not do anything to minimize that, the impact of that external threat, then you are in trouble. Then retrenchment might be a good strategy for you. Also, when an organization has grown so large, so quickly, that the major internal reorganization is needed. If you find that at a certain point of time, you have planned to diversify or integrate, you're going big, you're going large so quickly, okay, then you find you are not able to manage everything. Maybe you do not have enough human capital to run, or a good management team to run these things. Then this means you need to make some kind of reorganization. That's why we call it a reorganization strategy, a turnaround strategy. So you're trying to make a reorganization by, as we said, automation, by closing some parts that you feel like is not profitable, or by reducing the number of employees. You need all this to gain more cash. Okay? For the second defensive strategy, that's called divestiture. Divestiture means you are selling a division or a part of an organization. Again, divestiture means you sell a division or a part of an organization. In fact, divestiture can be part of an overall retrenchment strategy. We said in the retrenchment strategy, you already might sell some of the buildings and so on, right? But here, divestiture can actually be part of that big retrenchment strategy that includes many items. One of them is divestiture. So you're combining here, okay? So you want to sell a division, you want to sell part of your organization in order to raise cash, in order to raise capital that will help you in your strategic planning in the future. So why are you doing this? Why you might go for divestiture and sell part of a division of your organization? You might do this because you find that that part of the organization is actually unprofitable, does not give you the profit needed, okay? So, and it requires too much capital, and it does not fit well with other firms' activities. So in that case, divestiture might be a good choice for you. Also, you might go for that strategy or feel like it's a good strategy in order to help you focus on your core business and becoming less diversified. So divestiture here is actually, you can say it's kind of an opposite for the diversification strategy. You're trying to become less diversified. You want to focus more on your core business where you have the experience, where you have the production lines, where you have the value chain that you understand, and so on. So if you take an example for that, Procter & Gamble, okay, they were divesting or selling more than half of their brands, maybe nearly 100 brands, in order to focus on the core brands, about 80%, about 80 brands. So they were producing 180 brands, different brands. So they decided to sell some of them, okay, maybe more than a half of their brands, in order to focus on the core brands, in order to afford the capital needed to run the other brands more successfully. So here, when you go for divestiture by selling, so divestiture, we're talking here about selling, okay, a division or selling a part of your organizations to help you raise cash, to help you run other parts of your organization in a more efficient way, to help you focus on your own business in one hand, and on the other hand, if you already have some part of your organizations or some divisions or some production lines that are actually just not giving you the the profits or the benefits needed to help you run in the organization. When would you go for divestiture? What are the guidelines for you? When an organization has pursued a retrenchment strategy and failed to accomplish improvement, here you already tried retrenchment by selling small parts or by automation or by reduction of the number of your employees or by selling a building, maybe not a big part of the organization, you just sell some assets. For example, you already have a lot of assets in different places, buildings, it's part of your assets, so you decided just to sell it. But if you fail to do that, then you might go for a divestiture by selling a division, a part of the organization, not just a building or something. When a division needs more resources to be competitive than the company can provide, when that division or that product line or whatever already requires a lot of resources to be able to compete in the market, to be able to give you a competitive advantage. Remember, you're already running out of cash here. You're already facing a financial crisis, I cannot say. So if that division already needs that resources to be competitive, that means, and you do not have that enough resource, then it will be a good idea to sell that division, i.e. to divestiture, apply divestiture strategy. When that division is responsible for the organization overall poor performance, if you found that that division in your organization actually participate in making your organization's performance all in all very poor, then it would be suggested that it's better for you to sell that division than to keep running it and then keep having a poor performance. When that division is actually a misfit with the rest of the organization, when you found that that division does not fit with other part of your organization, maybe you have already taken a decision to diversify at a point of time, maybe with unrelated diversification or something. And then after a time, you found that that wasn't fit, that actually costs a lot, it does not give me the profit that I was expecting, then why not to sell it so that I can continue running my own business or running the things that I used to run in a more efficient way. When a large amount of cash is needed quickly, and that cannot be obtained from other resources. So you need a lot of cash now, and you found that that division is actually doesn't fit, and that division doesn't give you the profits that you needed, and that division is or part of the organization is actually contributes to your poor performance, and I need cash, so let's sell it so that I can continue running in the market. Okay, so these are the guidelines for the second defensive strategy, which is divestiture. Going to the last defensive strategy, which is called liquidation. That is your last option. Here, you're gonna sell all of the company's assets. You're gonna sell all of the company's assets for their tangible worth, i.e. now you're gonna get out of the market. You declare that you have already lost, you recognize that you have already defeated, and that's actually that's why we call it, it's the most emotionally difficult strategy. Why emotionally? Because now you're closing, you're selling your assets, okay, to gain cash, and then you can give that cash for your shareholders, and you can compensate for the employees who are gonna be without jobs now. So you might go for liquidation because you believe that it's better for you to stop operating than to continue losing large amount of money. Again, liquidation means, as a defensive strategy, I'm selling all of my assets. Khalas, I already tried with the first defensive strategy through retrenchment by selling some of buildings reduction by trying different strategies to reduce the cost and reduce the assets that's not required. Then it didn't succeed. So I went for divestiture. I saw by selling a division or part of my organizations to raise cash to help me continue in the market. Then still I'm losing. Still I'm not gaining enough profit. Still that's a high cost for me. Then I have no other choice but to sell all of my assets to get cash. And I now declare I have already been defeated. And that's why we said it's very emotional, difficult strategy. So I took the decision that I should be stopping now rather than keep continuing in the market and keep losing. So it's better to stop than to continue, just because it's hard to take the decisions, but that means it will be harsher. But by all means, you'll have to liquidate later on. If you continue lose, then you have to shut down at a certain point of time. So it's better for you to sell your assets now, where they have already some kind of worth. They can already give you amount of cash, than to continue losing money. When should you go for liquidation? First, when the organization have already tried retrenchment strategy, divestiture strategy, and neither of them has been successful. So as I said, you already tried retrenchment, you already tried reorganization of your organization, yes, and you tried divestiture by selling a division or a part to raise cash, and all of them failed. Then you have no other choice but to liquidate. When an organization's only alternative is bankruptcy, now you are forced, you might face bankruptcy. So your liquidation in that case can give you a little cash that will help you to gain more cash for their organizations. Then you might actually, some organization can already legally declare bankruptcy first, then liquidate the various divisions in order to raise the needed capital for your organizations. When the stockholders of the firm can minimize their losses by selling the assets. If you found that the stockholders of your organizations already, we said we already are losing. Now we declared we are losing. We're not gaining profits. We are losing. So the stockholders found that they can minimize the loss by selling the assets and gain that cash out of selling of the assets that can at least reduce their losses from the organization. Okay, so to sum it up, so far that's gonna be the ending of our chapter. We're not gonna cover the rest of the points. So we just, in that chapter of the types of a strategy, to sum it up, we started by talking about long-term objectives and defining the characteristics of the objectives. And then we moved on to talk about the 4 types of strategies. The first is the intensive strategies. The first type of strategies we talked about was the integration strategies, when we talked about forward integration, okay, backward integration, horizontal integrations, where you are controlling your competitors. And then we talked about intensive strategies. We talked about 3 types of intensive strategies. Market penetration, when we are talking more about marketing strategy, you're making a marketing for current or present products or services in the present markets. And then we talked about, let me just give you the table so that you can follow the types. Okay, here. And then we talked about market, here we are, market penetration strategy. Okay, we're talking about having more of a marketing strategy for your organization. Like we said, we can bring Muhammad Salah, for example, to make a marketing for your product. We're talking about present product, present market. And then we talked about marketing development when we talked about you are entering into a new geographical areas with your present products, but in a new geographical areas, like you're opening in a new store somewhere else, China, Ethiopia, whatever. Okay, then The third type of intensive strategy is product development. Now you are trying to improve your present product or service, or you're trying to develop new products. You already have a product, you try to improve it, or you already introduce a new complete product. Okay, like we said with Apple Watch, for example. Okay, then we talked about the diversification strategies. We differentiated between related diversification and unrelated diversifications. Okay, so when we talked about related, we talked about adding new but related products. You're adding a new product, but it is already related to your lines of products or services, not something completely different. And we gave an example of that with the Dumpty sandwiches. And then for the unrelated diversification, we said you add new but completely unrelated products or service. Like we said, you have an M&M's, candy, and now you're producing pet food. So it's something completely different. Then we end up talk about the defensive strategy that try to help you continue in the market or you just leave. And we differentiate between the three types of strategies. The first one, which is called retrenchment, and we call it turnaround strategy, reorganization strategy, and through which you try to reduce the cost, regroup through cost and asset reduction in order to reverse the declining sales and profit. You already have a declining sale and profit, so you try to sell some of your assets, reduce the cost through reduction of number of employees, for example, in order to reverse that declining sale and profit. Then we talked about the second defensive strategy, which is divestiture. And in that case, you are trying to sell a division or a part of your organization in order to raise enough amount of cash. And the last type of defensive strategy, we called it liquidation, which here means now we are selling all of our assets in order to gain the further tangible worth, to gain money. Now we are losing, now we are getting out of the market, we declare it. We said it's the hardest emotional strategy that you can apply, but at least it's you are now moving towards bankruptcy, so at least you try to sell your asset to raise cash to reduce your losses. Okay, so these were the four different types of strategies. What is required from you in that part is that you try to understand the definition of the strategies and try always to relate each strategy to an example so that you can easily remember it. Then second, you need to be clear, understand clearly what are the guidelines needed to apply each of these strategies, when you should best apply each of these strategies. So you might expect, for example, to have a questions that's saying an organization applied strategy, and he doesn't mention the name of the strategy, but he gonna tell you, for example, Starbucks decided to buy a coffee farm to produce and so on. So what type of the strategy that Starbucks was applying? And in that case, you're gonna say the name of the strategy is backward integration. Okay, it could be a true and false question. Like, for example, Gap opened its first 5 stores in China. And that's an example of product development. So true or false. In that case, of course, they're going to be saying false, and the correction is that it's market development. If I'm saying, for example, here, let's say Staples closed some of its stores and reduced by 50% the size of their stores. That's an example of a retrenchment strategy. Then it's going to be true. Okay. So you try to understand these examples of the strategies and you try to relate to it. Or you might also by the guidelines. So you might be asked about comparing between the different strategies. So you need to mention the guidelines needed to apply for each strategy. And also it's very important for your case analysis that you still have to submit, and I will be posting in the Moodle the percentage of the grades, given now that you know that's only 20% for the coursework. Big part of them, or actually most of them we'll go for that, your case analysis. So here in your case, you will be reading the case, and it will be explained in the case the type of the strategy the organization have applied. But it's not going to be mentioned the name of the case. He will be talking, giving you these examples on the right. Amazon, for example, have decided to do so and so and so and so and so and so and so. So in that case, you need to determine what is the type of the strategy that Amazon was applying in the case. And then you analyze it and say, was it the right choice? Maybe you found that the market was not growing so high, have a slow growth. Then, however, the organization applied the integration strategies. Okay, then that's against the guidelines, because in the integration, forward integration, the industry has to be growing and expected to grow. If it's vice versa, and the organization have already applied a forward integration strategy, so this means that there's something wrong was there, and it will be clear for you also in the case, because they might refer to some of the problems that happened due to that strategy. So you got to say it was wrong for the Amazon, for example, to apply forward integration strategy because the market was not growing so fast, and that's why it was better for them to apply X strategy. Okay, so that's why that chapter is actually very important. Try to read it carefully, listen to the audio, and then try to read the chapters and read the examples carefully from the book. The slides, again, are not enough. You have to refer to your book for the details and the examples, okay? And to make sure that you have understand and differentiated between the different types of strategies, whether integration, intensive, diversification, or defensive strategies, okay? Again, I will be posting on the Moodle how you'll be able to contact me in case you didn't get to understand anything. And I hope as much as possible that I have made the videos clear for you. Wishing you all the best in your coming studies, and meeting you again on the next new chapter, inshallah. Have a good day, and please stay safe, okay? Thank you so much. Bye-bye.